Okay, we are back. Hopefully, the internet connection will be better now. Um, yes, we're going to talk about the upcoming health crisis nobody is talking about, but that was a bit of clickbait right there because some people are talking about it. Otherwise, I would not know. But it goes against what most people are thinking, uh, and this should not be controversial, but YouTube being YouTube and people being people, it probably will be. Now it's working. Now people are seeing the live stream. So we are going to talk about something that affects a lot of people. I'm just going to give it a few seconds so that people can join the chat. Also, I want to say hello to Angela, KP Heathen. You are moderators here, which is needed sometimes. Alex99, hi there. Enjoying you are enjoying your breakfast. Okay, so the upcoming health crisis that nobody's talking about. Can you guess what it is? And just it's not it's not Billy Boy's cough medicine thing. This is not what we're going to talk about now. What is it? The upcoming health crisis nobody is talking about. Measles. Well, at least that's not what I'm going to talk about here. I'll just say it, okay? Anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression, says Steve. Well, that is certainly something that needs to be talked more about and so on. But yeah, obesity. Yeah. People are getting fat. The opposite of starvation, actually. There's an article in The Lancet, and it says that by 2050, half of the population in the world will be obese. And 1/3 of kids and youngsters, 1/3 will be obese. So obesity is going to be a huge huge problem. Sorry. A big, huge problem. Here's my cup. Dad jokes. I'm sorry. In the near future, I mean 2050. That's in a few years, and it seems like, contrary to popular belief, this is becoming more and more of a problem, or the increase, the growth is biggest in developing countries like in Africa. And of course that we are going to get into things about the diet and so on, but it seems like there's a cultural phenomenon here, or a factor, of course, but also it has to do with the access to healthy food, because we do know that some foods have been designed so that you will get hooked on that and eat more of that. I think like potato chips is an example of that, and that's why it's when you open a bag of potato chips, you eat a lot of it. Well, I must admit I do. and but it's designed like that because of the ingredients. You want more and more and more. Um, so yeah, now obesity in itself is a problem because it limits your choices in life. It makes most people kind of miserable. And by the way, I am not talking about a natural variation of the human physique. Not talking about that. I'm talking about obesity, which obesity is not being a little bit fat or chunky. I don't think that necessarily unhealthy, but obesity is unhealthy. Um, there is no way around it. It's a big, huge problem in many countries, and it seems like it's becoming more and more of a problem in developing countries. Um, that that brings other health issues, of course, with it. Um, what's it called in English? It was mentioned up here. Um, let's see here. Um, diabetes. Yes. We know. Well, there are two kinds, as far as I know, of diabetes, of course, and one of them can be and should be um, dealt with diet. So basically, less carbs. Um, and I also now want to dive into diet a little bit because what we are seeing now concerning how we are supposed to eat, and this is coming from the governments take orders from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is basically a propaganda machine for big pharma and the companies making processed food. So they don't want you to eat clean. They don't want you to eat clean because when you eat clean, you eat things that you see. You see what's on the plate, on your plate, right? You eat a piece of meat, you eat fish, you eat a carrot. you know, they don't want that because they want you to eat their ultra processed crap, and it's not good for you. I think, I mean, we all know that. We all know that. Um, there were issued new orders, so to speak, from the World Health Organization, and they said nothing about ultra processed food. They just said that you shouldn't eat meat. Now, if you don't eat meat or fish because of ethical reasons, I absolutely respect that. And you know what? I wish that we all could eat only vegetables, and that would be ideal for the human physique and our health. I wish that was the case because then animals wouldn't have to suffer, you know? So I, I get that. But we also have to be honest about what is best for our health. Um, And for most people, a balanced diet is what is best for your health. Now, what is a balanced diet? They use that term quite a lot. Now, before I get into that, my background, and I actually feel that I know what I talk about. I'm a powerlifting coach. I'm a powerlifting competitor. I have been all of my life. And I'm also a personal trainer. I don't work as a personal trainer, but I wanted to do that, part-time education because I'm interested in those topics. So I know diet quite well. For most people, or I should be more correct here. For the human body, um, a balanced diet is optimal, and a balanced diet is meat, fish, vegetables, some fruit, maybe, but not too much. And that's basically it. That is what we have thrived on, and that's how we have developed as a species. And you can tweak that, and we know that if you eat a lot of red meat, now I'm talking grass-fed meat. I know that it's again, in the USA, the food is much more toxic. So I, I what I'm saying here is based on the food we have here in Norway. Um, if you eat red meat, Norwegian red meat, it will be very good for your muscular development and so on. And eggs is a superfood. Sadly, I don't tolerate egg very well, sadly, but it's a superfood. So that's a balanced diet. That is a balanced diet. I believe it's possible to eat healthy while being vegan. I think it's possible, but I think it's quite difficult. Um, and I think you need quite a lot of extra vitamins and so on. Now, the diet I'm describing here is not the diet that most people are eating. They say that they're eating a balanced diet, but what they really are is that they are eating. Most people, they eat as if they were going to run a marathon tomorrow. They eat as if they're going to, as if they were working in construction all day, or something like that. It's it's the carb content is too high, and we do know that too many carbs or too much carbohydrates will be stored as fat. That's how people get obese. Now, you can get obese in many different ways, but basically, if your calorie intake is higher than the calories you use, that you burn and that you through the day and the night while you're sleeping, then you're going to add weight to your body. Because your body, it will store glucogen, your carbs as glucogen in your body, in your blood and liver and so on. But that will eventually, when you have enough, then you will start storing it as fat. We know this. But still, we're being told that you should eat less meat, you should eat even less fish. That's what they're saying now. But here is all this healthy food, and they're pointing at foods that are carbs only. And they will, it's insane when you go to the store, grocery store, and you see, at least here in Norway, they have marked some of the foods here high protein. High protein. It's laughable. It doesn't say high protein on a package of steak. It says high protein on a box of beans. It says high protein on a little tiny jar of yogurt. And none of those are high protein. None of those are high protein. But anyway, so back to the topic here. Obesity is not okay. It's not okay. It's not nice to be obese, and I think that anyone listening to this, I want to say this: if you are obese, listening to this, and you are obese, you need to practice some self-care, self-love, whatever, whatever it's called. I'm saying all the wrong words here today, but and try to get active. You know, um, love yourself, and you deserve to get active. You deserve to eat clean, to eat well. Um, Sudeep says fat body shaming must come back. I disagree. I don't think that that is okay. Rather, we should be much more encouraging. Now, it's it's human decency. I think it's about human decency, and we need to encourage people who struggle with obesity, um, you know, to get active. To we know that from actual research that if you start feeling if you start feeling a little bit better about yourself, you will probably also be motivated to get active and to eat less, eat healthier. So this is quite important, um, to grasp this concept. Uh, Body shaming doesn't help anyone. It's just tiny minds who do that, and it's not. Come on, it's not necessary to do that, you know. So and also, it's we don't know the reason why people are obese. Well, they eat too much, of course, but why do they eat too much? And eating can be a way to cope with depression, with psychological problems. We know this as well. So that's what I'm saying. If you start feeling better about yourself, if you start valuing yourself better, and then you will be more. Then it's more likely that you actually go out and start walking, start exercising. So this is important. Now, when it comes to these developing countries, someone here mentioned that there is a part of that culture, especially in Africa, where obesity is seen actually as attractive. Now, I don't know that for a fact. I've actually never been to Africa, but it's I have also heard that, and that will be difficult to change. I think we can maybe, if we go back, in history. And it's quite interesting actually, because obesity was seen as, I actually don't know if it was seen as sexually attractive, but I know it was seen as a sign of wealth. If we go back to these round little figurines that they've found. One of them, the most famous one, is called Venus. Yeah, I can never remember. It's not the Venus in the painting. It's it's a fat Venus. Um, yeah. Well, anyway, it's basically a Venus of Wildendorf. Okay. Well, thank you. So that's a round. It's a ball-shaped woman, basically, with and it's you know nobody looked like that back then. We're talking Stone Age, right? It Nobody looked like that, because that would be, I think, impossible. um but it's a symbol of wealth. So I think in many time periods, obesity, or maybe not obesity, but having a little bit of extra was seen as attractive because it was associated with wealth. And uh, you also have exceptions of that, from that. The most famous one that I can think of is actually the Viking Age, where being athletic, you can see this in the sagas, being athletic was seen as an ideal. But then again, that was a time period of expansion, and yes, life was hard, but also we don't really there is no, as far as I know, in Scandinavia at least, no major famines. They so they didn't. Yeah, but anyway, um, yeah. So it's a cultural thing, but it doesn't change the physiology and the here, and it doesn't change the medicine involved, like medicine, like the what's the term? It doesn't change the facts concerning obesity. Um, it's not healthy. So again, back to that article in the Lancet, when you have, it's projected that it says that it's projected by 20, well, actually in 15 years. No, I'm sorry. It's not 15 years. 2050. Okay, 2050. By 2050, 50% of the population in the world will be obese, right? And 1/3 of the population in the world will be obese by 2050. That's the projection. That's a major health crisis right there, and that's what they are calling it. That's a major health crisis. So I don't know what to do about that. Well, I know that they should be more honest about what we should eat. And also, I think that a lot of things they sell in the grocery stores should be illegal. It should be illegal because it's extremely unhealthy. So it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it. When you go into the grocery store, and I think that I'm seeing a trend. More and more of the stuff, the processed food is taking up more and more space in the grocery store, and the proper food is the space that they use for the proper food is shrinking. I don't know if you have observed the same, but that's what it looks like to me. So again, what should you eat? It's really very simple. It's simple. You should eat, most people now, not taking into account allergies, because you should obviously not eat what you can't digest and things that you are allergic to. But basically, if you eat majorly, mostly meat, fish, and vegetables, you're okay. And of course, there is the issue, as I mentioned. I think in the USA, at least, the meat is maybe not as healthy as the meat we have here in Norway. But I don't know the facts there. So this is not complicated. And you can add things like nuts and eggs, obviously. Some people can digest milk, but many more people than you would imagine cannot digest milk. I have to avoid milk myself, and I think like the entire African continent, they can't digest milk. So yeah. So this is really simple. That's how most people should eat. Again, you can be a vegan and be healthy. I think that's possible. Just have to mind that you are getting all the essential amino acids every day. Quite important that you do that. But if people here are writing vegan is the healthiest option, I will say no, it's not, because it is not. I get the ethical aspect. I absolutely also agree with the ethical aspect, but it's not healthier. That's just not correct. Some Cut Despira says lentils are your friends. Lots of people can't digest things like beans and peas and lentils. So I can't. And yeah, but if you can, that should maybe be in your diet as well, you know. Legumes, yes, Mr. Sorpos. I agree. It tastes great, you know, as part of your meal, if you can tolerate it. But that's also one of the problematic foods for many, maybe not most people, but for many people. The same with bread, actually. And what I've heard is it's because of the yeast, actually. And yeah, avoid Norwegian salmon or farmed salmon. That's basically pure toxic poison. Mr. Sorpo says KP Heathen here has a couple of nice cooking videos on his channel. KP Heathen, if you want to, you can put a link to your channel in the chat, and I will pin that comment. Oh yeah, Hotep, yes, says that you're saying you're envious of. I'll read your comment. I'm envious of my buddy who lives in Alaska. He gets to get some of the freshest salmon possible. Yeah. I've had fresh salmon, you know, like proper salmon. It's a different taste. And yeah, I like that. Alaska Jack says, I'm on the moose and salmon diet. Well, lucky you. That's a good diet. Let's see here. Yes. Yeah, check out KP Heathen's channel there. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about raw milk. And I looked into that actually. It's not unproblematic. It really isn't. And some people were saying that this must have started the idea that raw milk is great. It can be, don't get me wrong, it can be, but let me explain. But it must have started in some city where people they're not around cows on a daily basis. Because I think if you're going to drink raw milk, you have to see the cow. You have to be there. You have to make sure that that the cows are kept clean, out in the open field and like they should be, by the way. And because it's cruel what they do, and what I'm trying to say is that most cows are dirty. That's why they pasteurize the milk. Okay, eventually you will get quite sick drinking raw milk, unless you are completely sure and guaranteed that it comes from cows that are being treated in an ethical way, cows that are being kept clean. And if you can't know that, my advice would be that you should avoid raw milk. So in most cases, no, I don't think raw milk is better than homogenized. Is it not pasteurized? What do you call that in English? So that's kind of something that people don't really talk about so much, but you know, it's pasteurized. Okay, yeah. So it's yeah, and it's not going to. Some people are saying that if you can't tolerate milk, you probably will tolerate raw milk. No, no. If you can't, I mean, if you can't, if your body can't split lactose, then you're not going to tolerate raw milk either. And the Blue Eye says once it's pasteurized, it has no value. Well, that's not correct. It has milk absolutely has nutritional value. If you can digest milk, it's an excellent form of protein and calcium and some other things as well. It absolutely has value. Let's say you want to build muscle. It's a game of protein, rest, and resistance training. If you don't get enough protein, you will not build muscle. So, and milk is rich in protein, not by like 100 grams of milk or 1 deciliter. That contains about 3.5. Is that not? Yeah, 3.5 grams of protein. But if you drink a liter of milk, then that's 35 grams of protein. And the milk protein is digested slowly in your body, which some people claim is good if you then digest milk protein in the evening, because then you have a steady access to protein through the night while you are sleeping, which is also the time when you are building the most muscle. So, Laura, no, I could never drink milk. No. Well, I can drink milk, but I mean, it's not like it's going to be dramatic if I do it, but it's no. Yeah. So, interesting question here, which I will. Yeah, Mike is asking, what is your opinion on organizations growing meat in labs? Well, I have a somewhat balanced view on that. First of all, let's assume that it's safe, that it's healthy, and so on. Let's first of all assume all of that. It would be good because to do that then, because we wouldn't have to kill animals. Yeah. So that would be good if that was the case. Also, and I looked into this, it's not a GMO unless you use an animal that is GMO to extract cells from. But copying cells as they do, is, well, it is meat. Actually, it is meat. It's the definition of meat, because it's grown from meat cells. So it's a copying of that. Now, so we need to get the facts correct here. So clearly it is meat. It's meat cells, right? Now, the problem is, of course, that you don't get, well, two problems at least. You don't get all the vitamins and minerals that you get from eating meat from an animal, like carved off an animal. You don't get that. In a popular, the popular term is empty calories. The other problem is when you look at the people involved in this. I mean, Bill Gates is involved in this big time. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't trust Bill Gates. So you're taking you're putting a lot of trust into this. You're basically saying that this thing that you have grown in your machines, I trust you on this, that this is good for me. And I don't, to be honest with you here, I don't. Tom McGiven says, "Get a haircut, dude. I'm not your dude. Why don't you get a different attitude if you're going to stay here, Tom?" So I don't trust it. That's my major problem. But the technology itself is not problematic the way I see it. And I mean, it's not problematic. It wouldn't be as good as real meat, but you know. So that's my balanced view on this. Grassland says, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Makes me paranoid about genetic problems. I don't think you're being paranoid. Possible carcinogens, and we won't find out for over 20 years. Yeah. So that's, that's the problem. And I live, my land here borders to the forest. Actually, the forest is part of my land here. And so I have close contact with the wildlife here. And I have this romantic idea that we should all hunt for food. And that's the most ethical way to do it, to get animal protein. But of course, not everyone could do that. It would be, we would empty the forest of animals, I think. But it's not. I'll put it this way: if you are an ethical hunter and you know what you're doing, you can go out there, you can track animals, and you can shoot and kill instantly the animals that would probably suffer through the winter because they're old, maybe injured, and that moose that you shoot will. Now I'm not sure, but I heard that the moose will feed a family through at least the winter months. And I think that's more ethical because animals die all the time, and out there in the forests, it's let's just put it the way it is. It's not a painless death. It's a very painful death for most animals. Yeah. Vero Fala says, I don't like hunters. I can tell you, I don't like the hunters up in these forests here either, because they're not ethical the way I can. They're not. And I would, I don't even want to call them hunters. It's yeah. Okay, I want to thank you all for joining. The first live stream was problematic because of the internet connection, and this one seems to work. But now I have to go, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening or morning. We'll talk soon. Okay, bye bye.